Hello, this is Peter from Designtuitive. Welcome to the second lesson on creating logos from basic shapes. One of the main skills you'll learn when designing logos or icons is how to use basic shapes. That's the focus of these lessons. So before I go any further, have a look at this logo and see if you can identify what shapes are used. So if you're thinking about it, pause the video and just have a good look at it before I show you how it was, I believe, made. Okay, well, I'm hoping that you spotted that triangles were used. You may not quite see how they were used, but if I click on the different individual triangles, you'll see there's one there, another one here. And in fact, these are all triangles, but rotated in different ways. So the rotation is one of the things. But the other key thing is that these shapes are perfectly aligned. Now, in the previous lesson, you saw the circles. They were automatically aligned because when you scaled them, they scaled from the center. Here it's not quite so simple. So let's look at the challenge. Firstly, to create the triangle, you use the polygon tool. So that's hidden under the rectangle tool. You click and drag, and that doesn't appear to give you a triangle, but if you keep your mouse button down whilst you press the down arrow a few times, eventually you'll get to just three sides, so a triangle. The trick is though, before you let go, make sure you're holding the shift key down, so that when you let go of the mouse, you end up with a perfect triangle. Okay, so that is a perfect triangle. Has to be, that's the way it works in Illustrator. Now, it's given me the same fill and stroke I used last time, which was a black fill and no stroke. If yours is different, adjust using this area here. So if creating the shapes is one skill, the next skill is transforming. So in the previous lesson, you learned about the scale tool. This time we're going to look at the rotate tool. So again, like the scale tool, double click and then you type in your angle. So I've typed in 180 previously because that's what it was doing before, so that's fine, 180. And then again, rather than OK, we'll do copy, and then we get a perfect copy. Go back to the selection tool and start to move that into place. Now the only trouble is, as you try and line it up, it may be more or less accurate, but I'm afraid you can't have it almost accurate with this kind of thing. It's got to be absolutely lined up, and you can see it doesn't appear to be working. Now, one setting you may have is up here, snap to pixel grid. So in the latest couple of versions of Illustrator, this is what you've had on. So if you just click on that, you'll no longer be snapping to the pixel grid. The pixel grid is great if you're creating tiny icons and things, but for this it's kind of annoying. So with that switched off, I should be able to just drop that into place, and it should line up. You can see it's not quite doing it, and the reason for that is that it's wanting to line up to this other shape over here. So if that doesn't work, a good trick is you go to the view menu, you hide the bounding box. I'm going to just zoom in a little bit for you here. You make sure you pick the shape up from the actual anchor point, and you can see we're lining it up with the anchor point because it says anchor, but it also gives that white little square. If you pick up from there and line up with another anchor point, you'll see that your cursor goes white. So that's a way to be absolutely certain that things are lined up. So once we've got this, we've actually got all the building blocks necessary to create this and several other amazing logos. So really it's just a case of using your selection tool, making copies of these, and the easiest way to do that is hold down the Alt key and drag. So with some copies here, we can start to kind of put different bits together. So for example, if I pick it up from that anchor point, line that up there, what you're going to discover is you get some really interesting results. So we're copying this classic logo here, but we're doing it really to give you an insight into how you can kind of get your own creativity going. Really, this is not about trying to rip off anybody else's logo, but seeing the really clever techniques that are used in this kind of thought process behind it. So you can see that's really just these two shapes, 1, 2, they're aligned and they're transformed.